y'all, how's everyone? This is Angela, and today's video I'm just going to be doing a little bit of a garden update this week in the garden. I've got my leafy greens in this bed. So that's spinach, kale, collards, what else? Swiss chard, lettuce. This is a 12-foot long bed, so I've kind of sectioned it off, and I use these little white plant markers. I'll try to show you one up close. So here we've got lacinato kale. Usually I'll use those Brother P-Touch labelers because we have a nice little P-Touch labeler, and I found that they hold up for like 2 or 3 years as far as sticking those labels onto the plastic plant tags. They stay stuck and they don't fade, which is really nice. So I tend to grow the same things from year to year, so I can just reuse those same tags. Otherwise, if I had to reprint every year, it might get a little pricey because the tapes aren't cheap. What I've noticed this time is that I switched to like a generic brand of the labels just through Amazon, because you could get like 4 cartridges for really cheap. And I'm finding that with the test, I always do a couple little test labels and sit them out in the sun. They're already starting to fade. So that's not good. So I think I'm gonna have to come up with a different way. And I ended up getting a garden marker, and I'll show you that maybe in another video. So I'm just gonna maybe go back to handwriting labels with that garden marker. That's supposed to hold up as far as fading, whereas Sharpies I have found fade within the same season. They don't last at all. So I got this bed planted last Wednesday, the 24th I think it was, and now we're on March 29th, so 5 days ago. I'm trying to stay ahead of the game this time, because I find that if I don't stay on top of all my tasks, it all just goes downhill very quickly. So today what I'm going to do is get the radishes in, and this is called watermelon radish from Hudson Valley Seed Company. This was the first year I had ordered seeds from Hudson Valley, and they have these cutest little packs. Not sure how well you can see that. I'll take it out of the package and show you. So they have these they're little square packs of seeds, and they call them art packs. And they don't sell all their seeds this way, but certain ones, they'll have a variety in a regular pack and the same variety in these little art packs. And they are pricier than the regular seeds, so I'm sure not going to buy all my seeds in the art packs, just the ones that I thought were cute. So I'm doing those watermelon radishes. This will be my first year for growing radishes, and we'll see how that turns out. I think they'll probably be pretty easy. And then similar, I got some Boro beets, and this will be my first year for growing beets ever. I think they ought to be like similar to grow, I would think. And then silly me, but I am going to try carrots again. I've got St. Valerie carrots, that's from Baker Creek. And I also have cosmic purple carrots. This was a free pack of seeds. If you've ever ordered from Baker Creek, you will have seen that they'll always throw in a free pack with every time you order. So those are the 4 things that I'm going to be planting in today. And these are all 4 going to be going in my raised bed here that has garlic growing in it. And I've never tried growing anything interplanted with the garlic, but all the reliable sources say you can do that, so especially with these smaller things like beets and radishes. So I'm going to give it a go. So the few times I've tried to grow carrots in the past, I haven't really had a lot of success, and I've read and heard that they're kind of tricky. So I'm going to try again this year and try to do everything that they need and take good care of them, give them all their requirements and stuff, and hopefully that'll give me some better success this year, because my harvest in the past has just been like pretty measly, like little 2-inch long carrots that are 1/4 inch in diameter, like tiny little carrots, like kind of worthless really, that ended up in the compost heap. So I got my beets and radishes and carrots all in. I think I am going to do some more beets though, but I ran out of labels, so I'll have to make some more labels up in the house. I thought about just go ahead and sticking the seeds in and doing the labels later, but We probably all know how that'll turn out. I'll forget and they won't get labeled. It'll be one of those surprise crops. So getting it all watered in now. So my garlic's looking pretty good. And I did an experiment with the garlic when I planted it last October. I'll put a link to that video in case you're interested. I split the bed essentially, like virtually in half, and did some heavy amendments to one half, and then just used whatever soil was left in, remaining in there from the previous planting in the other half. And then I also then divided each half into sections for different timings. I wanted to see if it really mattered if you planted before or after the first frost. So I kind of did some timing experimentation. So far, it doesn't look like the timing has impacted it, just judging by the way I have it split up. But it does look like the side that was amended heavily, at least the greenery is more robust. So we'll see. Time will tell on that one. And I did another little section of radish back here in our far back bed. I'm going to put cucumbers and beans here soon. So I just took a little bit of the corner there where the markers are for some radishes, just to kind of tuck them in wherever I could find space for them, or where I knew I might have a little bit of extra space. So I ended up making a couple labels for the beets and got a few little seeds in down at this end of the bed. This is the fourth bed in a row here, and it's the one that has the very tall trellis on that I typically use for cucumbers. And I've grown indeterminate tomatoes up on this trellis too. They love the trellis. So I have a couple more things I gotta get done out here today before I can call the day done and start relaxing a little bit. I'm gonna get some shrubs fertilized over on the other side of the house. They're just flowering shrubs, ornamental. And I've got some potentilla that's starting to leaf out. You can see that. And some spirea. I'm sorry, you guys. I know these aren't showing up very well. Got some sedum. And that didn't get pruned very well last year, that looks like a dead twig sticking up from the ground, is a red Prince Weigela. And then I kind of repeated those same shrubs throughout this bed a few times. And I'm not finished planting in here. I'm just kind of waiting to see how big these are going to get and what I have room for. So I'm going to put a slow release fertilizer on these. And we've got the lumber that we're going to use for the greenhouse kind of sitting right here. This might be tricky. I'm going to have to actually walk into the bed because I can't reach into it. I don't like walking on my beds because it compacts the soil, but there's no way around it this time. As you can see, I've got a lot of shredded leaves down here. I am such a huge fan and user of shredded leaves in the garden. As a mulch, as an additive to my compost, I think they're fantastic. So this is a fertilizer called Milorganite. It's a low content, I guess you would say. It's not real potent, but it's slow release. And you just sprinkle it around the outside edge of the soil, around the base of the shrub, but not, right up against the shrub, and water it in. In fact, you might not even need to water it in because it's slow release. But don't take my word for that. I'd have to look it up. I always water it in. Anytime I use a fertilizer, I just go ahead and water it in just to be safe. Even slow release ones that will get rained on time and time again as the season goes on, I still just go ahead and water them as soon as I put the fertilizer on. This is the spirea. It's got really pretty colorful reddish orange leaves on it. I love this plant. As I was saying, I don't tend to use a lot of fertilizers. I rely heavily on compost, shredded leaves, my coffee grounds, and things like that. And especially with my vegetables and food plants, I very, very rarely use any chemical fertilizers on those. I don't mind doing the slow release on these shrubs though, because they're here long term. At least this is my philosophy. Now, I'm not sure what an actual true botanist would have to say about this, but my thoughts are that because these shrubs are here for the long haul, and they're going to be in these same spots for many, many years, in addition to the organic things that I put on the soil, I don't mind putting a little slow release, like low wattage fertilizer on them, as long as it's well made and a respected brand. I just kind of think that these plants are going to get big. They're going to be using up a lot of the nutrition in the soil, and it doesn't hurt to give them a little added boost every year once in the spring. And my last thing for today is to dump my coffee grounds into my compost. And I've kind of started doing something different with that too. I had all these 5-gallon buckets that I used to grow tomatoes in, but because I grew tomatoes in them, they have holes drilled in the bottom, so they can't be used for buckets now. And I hate the thought of them ending up in the landfill. So what I did was to start using these as little mini compost. I'm not sure how well that's going to work, but what I was thinking, I kind of keep my compost components divided into 3 parts. I've got my big pile of shredded leaves, and I've got my coffee grounds, and then here I have any kitchen scraps, any plants that have died, things like that go in there. So what I have done with these white buckets is to put some of each component in and trying to do like the right ratio or as close as possible, and let those kind of decay on their own, like individually, if I keep them wet as much as possible, and try to turn them as best as I can, I guess, just with a broad fork in there, shuffling it around. We'll see how that works. That might be one of those lame brain ideas that I've come up with that may or may not work, but isn't that one of the greatest things about gardening? You get to try all these things out and see what works and what doesn't. And of course, you always take into consideration the advice of all the gardening knowledge out there, whether it's someone that you know or books or people on the internet, all the YouTubers. They all have such great body of knowledge, cumulative between all of them. But sometimes, you know, you try things on your own and see how it goes, and you hit upon a good idea every once in a while. So we'll see how this goes. Plus, if it works like I'm hoping it's going to work, then the compost will be like ready to go in a nice little bucket with a handle that's easy to carry to whichever bed I'm going to place it in. So, fingers crossed. That's all I have for today. Thanks for hanging out with me today while I do my garden chores. So, it's fun to have some company, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. This is Angela signing off with the friendly reminder to get out there and play in the dirt.